You won't believe this kid exists. Arya Pramana weighs over 400 pounds. His family says he doesn't do anything but eat and sleep. His mom said she wanted to find a medical reason why he looked like that. But it turns out Arya was just eating 2 plates 5 times a day. Before I continue, I know an app just like TikTok just in case it gets banned. Link is in my bio. Arya's family has put him on a strict diet ever since. And it's actually working.
I still can't get over the fact that this woman was released from prison after she drugged her little sister, gave her to her husband so he could ST her and take her life. Paul Bernardo and Carla Hamalka were called the Barbie and Ken killers and committed one of the most horrific crimes together. They tortured and took the lives of these 3 innocent young teens in the early 90s. 15-year-old Kristen French was one of their victims. She was abducted in a church parking lot while Carla pretended to ask her for directions. Paul forced her into their car. In another case, 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey was abducted while she waited outside of her house. This was Carla's younger sister, Tammy, and one day Paul told Carla that he wanted her, so she drugged her sister and gave her to Paul to do whatever he wants with her. The girls were tortured for days and disgusting things were done to them while they videotaped everything. Together, they dismantled their bodies and then threw them in a lake. Now, while Paul got life in prison, Carla was able to walk free after 12 years. But not only that, after her release, she changed her name and she was caught working at a private elementary school in Montreal. Her job was to supervise kindergarten students, and when their parents found out, they were pissed off. And I don't blame them because I wouldn't want this person looking after my children either. This was one of the biggest cases in the world, especially in Canada, because of how disturbing their crimes were. People are still confused on how Carla was able to get such a good deal while Paul was denied parole 3 times and will most likely spend the rest of his life in prison.
Here are some kids' toys that got banned for being too dangerous. This toy, called a Jibba Jabber. The object of this toy was to beat it up. It was pulled from the shelves after being linked to making kids want to strangle each other. Pokemon and Burger King partnered up and made these tiny keychain Pokeballs with no holes in it for like a child to breathe that might try to eat the toy, because that's what kids do. They just eat tiny things. Kids fucking died from these. Moon shoes were like these half buckets with rubber bands and Velcro to keep your feet attached to them. And it was capable of launching a child like feet into the air. So many kids broke their ankles and cracked their skulls because of these. I remember I got them for Christmas and then my parents immediately took them away. This Quick Click Polly Pocket set were tiny pieces of plastic with magnets embedded into them. Sounds yummy. Definitely not like we're taking a trip to the hospital.
Wholesome facts that'll make your day slightly better. Part 2. If you've already made it to the airport without dying, you shouldn't be nervous about flying because you've already made it through the deadliest part of plane travel. Whenever you pet an animal, it actually lowers your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. Side note, this may not work on electric eels, porcupines, or anything that could decimate you in 2 seconds. Because guinea pigs get lonely, it's actually illegal in Switzerland to own just one. You have to get at least 2 if you want to have any at all. Sometimes tarantulas will keep tiny frogs as pets. The frogs will eat small insects that would typically eat the tarantula eggs, and in exchange, the frog gets a pretty damn good bodyguard. Capybara Land is a place in Japan where you can quite literally hang out with capybaras and see them chilling in hot springs. If 99% of the world's population finds you unattractive, that would mean that 78 million people still find you attractive.
Ants can live a really long time. Like, way longer than I thought. Your normal everyday ant can live like 4 to 15 years. And there have been queens on record living up to 28 years. Next time I have to step on an ant, I'm really gonna be like mourning their whole ass life. This is the hog-nosed snake, and when it feels threatened, it'll puff itself up and hiss at you. But if that doesn't work, it'll flip itself over and play dead. And if you take the snake and flip it from its back to its belly, it'll just flip itself back over like, no, I'm supposed to be dead. Penguins are able to drink salt water like it's fresh water because they have this gland behind their eyes that actually filters their blood and allows them to sneeze the salt out. Now, I'm not saying that we need to hire a bunch of penguins to save the world or whatever, but it's an option.
The rarest things in the world. Rarest animal, vaquita, only 10 left in the wild. Rarest gem on earth, painite, worth $60,000 per carat. Rarest poker hand, the royal flush, 1 in 655,000 chance. Rarest element on earth, aspartame, less than 1 gram on earth exists. Rarest car, Ferrari 250 Gran Turismo.
These are some of the most terrifying illnesses that you could get tomorrow.
Giants caught on tape part 1. People used to tell stories about ancient giants who used to walk around the earth with humans. Some people say they lived with us as friends and some say they ate us. These giants were called Nephilim, mentioned in the Bible. This is supposed to be a picture in 1890 of one of them. And yes, this is real footage of him walking around Japan in a parade. Look how big he is compared to all the little people, even the horses. Look at him towering over everybody. How much did this guy need to eat to be full? So what do you guys think? Is this fake? Or are they real, hiding in places we'll just never be able to find? I got more giant footage, so like this video for a part 2.
Crazy facts about cigarettes. 1 cigarette can reduce your lifespan up to 11 minutes. Out of 10 smokers, 9 started before age 18. A smoker's life expectancy is 10 years less than a non-smoker. When a cigarette is burned, 7,000 chemicals are activated. Nauru has the highest smoking rate at 52%.
Imagine accidentally finding a box that someone chained shut and threw into the ocean. Curious about what could be inside it, you take the box home and leave it in your shed. But as you're having dinner, you hear noises outside your front door. And when you open the door to check, you see that the box is somehow right there. Who's out there, you yell, thinking someone must have taken it from the shed and dropped it at your front door. You bring the box inside and put it on your table, and that's when you see the box is moving by itself. That's enough, you tell yourself, and you throw the box outside and go to sleep. But in the middle of the night, you suddenly wake up with something stuck inside your throat. You rush to the bathroom, coughing uncontrollably until you spit out a key. Confused and terrified, you leave the bathroom only to see an even more unbelievable sight. The box has somehow appeared in the middle of your hallway. So do you use the key to open the box and finally find out what's inside of it? This short film is called Mystery Box, and it was such a strange and unique story that I really enjoyed. Definitely check this one out and follow for more.
This surveillance camera caught this 73-year-old's final moments before he was murdered by this man over a $20,000 Rolex. And you guys won't believe this, but this guy who took his life did this all because he wanted to gift his girlfriend something nice for Christmas. This all happened last month when 56-year-old Nenad Milosevic met with his friend 73-year-old Anthony at around 10 p.m. at night. Anthony owned a jewelry store in Fort Lauderdale, and on that night, surveillance footage shows them entering the building and then taking the elevator to go upstairs to his shop after they went out for dinner. Apparently, Nenad wanted to buy jewelry for his girlfriend for Christmas, but things went horribly wrong. After entering the shop on the 3rd floor, Nenad was seen leaving 2 hours later on his own, carrying a bag and something covered with a towel. Anthony was reported missing on September 20th, but his body was found 3 days later in his shop by police, and the autopsy showed that he had injuries to his neck, back, and head. Eventually, he did admit to murder his 73-year-old friend and to stealing 20 pieces of jewelry, which he ended up throwing over a bridge. Nenad was eventually charged with 2nd-degree murder.
The gunfire captured at the end of that clip took the life of 26-year-old Melisha Jackson and her 1-year-old son, Isaac. On December 17, 2019, Melisha and Isaac were just hanging out in their home. And that's when a group of masked men approached the back of the home. 3 men then opened fire into the back door of the home and killed Melisha and Isaac. Sadly, Isaac was actually in his mother's arms when they were both shot and killed. Just a few days after the shooting, this man, Thomas Anthony Henderson, was announced as a suspect. At the time of the shooting, he was still a teenager. Thomas is currently still in prison for this crime, but there are 2 other men that were involved in the shooting that were never brought to justice. If you know anything about the murders of Melisha or Isaac Jackson, please contact local authorities, because this story is absolutely horrific. These two were just hanging out at home. The gunmen were trying to target someone involved in a gang, but these two were not the intended targets, and in fact, the initial target wasn't even shot. Also, if you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast that my wife and I co-host, Murder in America, available on all streaming platforms.
To think we were actually impressed when this first came out in 2023. Extremely grainy and chaotic, with each clip only being like 2 seconds long. Not to mention, the backgrounds, movements, and pretty much everything going on in the videos is just totally warped and doesn't visually make any sense. More of a bad trip than a realistic simulation, but it's a start. Then in 2024, we get a serious update. It's looking much better, full HD, and there's a sort of consistency in the video where things aren't just morphing in and out of shape anymore. You'll still notice some movements that are kind of creepy and jerky, or objects that just forget how they were supposed to be oriented. Overall, it still has a very uncanny type of feel to it. Like, we can obviously tell what we're looking at isn't real life, but now 2025 just brought it to a whole new level. Actually, no, this is a real video Will Smith took himself in 2024 as a parody to all the AI videos of him eating spaghetti. But it does give us a sort of control test of what we're working towards, because this is AI Will Smith eating spaghetti in 2025. The future is here. Huge improvements over 2024. At first glance, it almost looks 100% real. But if you look really close, you'll see a few unnatural movements and subtle transformations that just don't make much sense. But clearly, we're making great progress, and soon enough, we're going to be able to generate videos of anyone doing anything, and we're not even going to be able to tell whether they're real or AI. Hold up, should we be concerned?
You won't believe how this mother lost her daughter. Jeannie Diddy had a daughter named Macy Gray. They looked so happy together, and one day she said her 2-year-old choked on a banana. Sadly, her daughter passed away. Jeannie was so heartbroken that she had these pictures made. It was her grieving with the ghost of her daughter. Sometimes things aren't what they seem. Turns out that she only got those photos made to look innocent. Jeannie and her boyfriend Zach actually abused her daughter, winding up killing her. Rest in peace, Macy.
Where do you think this person is from? What about this person? Or this person? You might have guessed these people to be indigenous Australians, or perhaps people of the Pacific Islands, or even Africans. But they're actually members of various Adivasi tribes found in India. The people I showed you were specifically part of the Irula and Panya tribes. Now, according to the Out of Africa theory, humans first entered South Asia or India around 70,000 years ago. We refer to the people that formed a hunter-gatherer society in South Asia as the AASI. All South Asians partially descend from these early Homo sapiens that entered the subcontinent. Apparently, around 22% of my own DNA is derived from these ancient people. But the reason these tribal communities in India are so fascinating is because up to 70% of their DNA is derived from the AASI. And so some refer to them as the indigenous people of India, a debated title. Could these be zombie hands? Hello my friend, my name is Aslan and today we're looking at something called dead man's fingers, also known as Zolaria polymorphia. Believe it or not, this is actually a fungus. As you probably guessed, it gets the name dead man's fingers from the fact that it looks like a zombie hand reaching out of the ground. Funny enough, it actually grows around the base of dying trees. This picture is probably the creepiest to me because it looks like the toes of a corpse. And that's our first episode of Spooky Season.
7, 6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. If your eyes I will get the top of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the wall.
Did y'all know cruise ship graveyards were a thing? Because if you didn't, you do now. A cruise ship graveyard is, get this, a graveyard for cruise ships. And it's just a bunch of absolutely massive ships in a water yard just chilling there because they're not being used and will never be used ever again because they're either damaged or whatever. Could you imagine exploring this place at night? You would have to pay me $1 million to go anywhere close to these. Do you know how big these things are? So this is like a modern cruise ship, okay? Like, look how massive this thing is. Like, we're gonna focus right there in the pool area, okay? That's how tiny the people are in comparison to this gigantic ship. Looking at that again, and then that. No thank you. And also, this is the size of the Titanic in comparison to a modern day cruise ship, which is about 4 times as big. And we all know how big Titanic was. Why these people? Are those children or are those? No, those are adults. Oh my God. Look how big they are. It's small. Look how small they are in comparison to this gigantic bottom of the ship. This photo made my stomach drop into the pit of my butt when I saw it this morning. I actually kind of love this. I love this for her, this goat chilling with this dog in front of a ship graveyard. I would not be joining the goat. I just want to know what these people are on to be able to get in kayaks and go anywhere near these abandoned ships. Like, that's just horrific. Could you go in a kayak and go anywhere near these abandoned ships? And here's the inside of one of the cruise ships when it was turned sideways. Look at that, is nauseating. Like, imagine being on a cruise ship and it starts sinking and then you go outside and you see this in the hallway. Titanic all over again. This is so scary. So yeah, anyway, how are we feeling about these ship graveyards? Would you go near them?
If you walk into this forest, you might never walk out. At least, that's what the legend says. This creepy slideshow that I got tagged in shows an image of a strange clearing in a forest, some images of UFOs that many people actually believe are real, and finally mentions the name of the forest, the Hoabasiu. The Hoabasiu is located in Romania, or Transylvania to be precise, and it's long been thought to be one of the most paranormal places on the earth. This forest is very old, however trees look very young, and as you can see, they have a lot of very weird curves and formations. And many people that are born in this area are warned never step foot in the forest because evil presences live there. It's rumored that many people that have walked into the forest have never come out, so it's kind of like a Bermuda Triangle, and even time travel has been involved here. With people that have gone missing for years on end, suddenly reappear, they don't remember where they were, but they look the exact same. Personally, I think that I would go into this or at least take a tour of this tourist, but what about you guys?
Creepy urban legends from each state, Part 1, Arizona.
The ghost of Slaughterhouse Canyon. During the 1800s, there was a family who lived in the canyon. They were very poor, so the father would venture out into the canyon for food for his family. As you might have guessed, one day the father did not return, so his family slowly starved and descended into madness. The mother, unable to bear listening to her children cry anymore, put on her wedding dress, murdered the children, and threw them into a nearby river. The next day, she succumbed to starvation herself. The legend states that if you go down to Slaughterhouse Canyon at night, even now you will hear loud, anguished cries of the mother who lost her mind.
She says, it's his fingers. And I've seen his fingers.
A father confesses in detail the horrific moment his infant was being eaten alive by rats.
What do you think the explanation is? In your mind, what do you think it is?
Instantly, it was the rats.
50 rat bites. That's how many bites a poor 6-month-old baby had all over his body after his parents left rats to nearly eat him alive.
I seen the blood everywhere. His diaper was half hanging off of him. I hadn't seen his hands, so I instantly took him to the bathroom and took a washcloth. Like, did he have a nosebleed? She says, it's his fingers. And I've seen his fingers.
Mostly fingers?
Yes. He had marks on his head.
Right. Were those marks new or they're in there?
They're
okay. What do you think the explanation is? In your mind, what do you think it is?
Instantly, it was the rats.
The infant was left in a pool of blood with his tiny fingers gnawed down to the bone. He nearly died from blood loss and is now permanently disfigured.
That's the only thing that's been in that room all night. Anybody ever been bit before in the home by a rat? Anybody?
Rat,
The
no.
kids, you?
No. Rat, me, no.
He was living in a true house of horrors. It was in deplorable conditions, infested with rats and full of clutter, trash, bugs, and feces. The baby's mauling wasn't the first rat attack at the home. 3 other children had previously been bitten while sleeping. The Indiana Department of Child Services had provided aid to address safety concerns beforehand. The father has denied these allegations.
There's never been, none of those children been bitten by rats during the night, or at all.
Prosecutors said the baby's father, David Schoenebaum, failed to address issues that would have provided the children with a safe environment to live in.
But specifically, when you pick him up, you see the injuries, you immediately think, you in your mind, you're like, rats did this. There's nothing else could have caused this. Yeah.
David Schoenebaum was sentenced to 16 years in prison after a jury convicted him of 3 felonies related to the neglect and endangerment of his children. His wife, Angel Schoenebaum, and Schoenebaum's sister-in-law, Delana Thurman, was given probation. We hope in some way the baby can heal from this traumatizing incident.
After watching this movie, I am realizing that we need to bring back haunted object horror movies because look at this, freaky as hell. So I got to see an early screening of The Monkey, which comes out February 21st, and it's not because I am cool, it's because Justin over at Slasher Talk is very cool, and he got a private screening, and I was like, hello, can I tag along? And I didn't really know anything about the movie other than the fact that it's based on a short story from Stephen King, and it's brought to us by Osgood Perkins, who also brought us Long Legs. And if you're expecting something like Long Legs, wipe your mind of that, baby, because it is nothing like that. The gist of the movie is about these twin brothers who have this inherited haunted monkey toy thing, and when he bangs his little drum, crazy things happen. I went into this thinking it was going to be like Long Legs, like very dreadful and very serious. No, it is bonkers and batshit crazy and bloody and gory and hilarious. It's a horror comedy. I didn't know that. And I know the trailer shows a ton of the death scenes, but I promise you, that's not even the half of it. I do have to warn you though, because this is a horror comedy, a lot of these death scenes are like very gratuitous and very over the top. So just keep an open mind that this is like a very just fun, silly, unserious movie when it comes to that. Overall, I gave The Monkey a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. This one's just a fun one. You can sit back, turn your brain off, enjoy all the chaotic craziness that's going on.